You're sitting at the dinner table. It's a Tuesday. You're maybe 10 years old, and you're eating peas, and everything is completely, perfectly fine. Except it isn't. And you know it isn't. You've known it since you stepped off the school bus, paused on the front porch, and listened to the specific quality of the silence inside the house. Not the open kind, the held breath kind. So you dropped your backpack softly. You walked in carefully. And now you're eating your peas, and your mind is running calculations no 10-year-old should know how to run. If I tell the joke, will it land? If I mention the school trip, will it remind them about money? If I ask Dad to pass the salt, is today the wrong day to ask Dad anything? You decide on the joke. You make yourself a little smaller first, self-deprecating. You offer up a piece of your own dignity. And it works. The temperature in the room drops 2 degrees. Dinner continues. Crisis averted? Nobody called it what it actually was. They called it maturity. They said you were born like that. Easy, calm, perceptive. And you learned, somewhere around the age when you should have been learning multiplication tables, that your job in this family was to manage the weather. Go back further. Find the first time it happened. Some year in the early 90s or the early 2000s, in a house that wasn't violent. Not exactly. Not always. Just unpredictable. Just one heavy sigh away from everything tilting. A child lying completely still in the dark, listening, calibrating. Mapping the sound of footsteps on stairs, the way a navigator maps water depth. The quick, sharp tread, that's different from the slow, tired one. A slammed cabinet is different from a placed one. You knew the difference before you had words for it. And here is the thing nobody tells you. You weren't imagining it. Your brain was doing something very real, very structural. Researchers who spent years studying what chronic tension does to a developing nervous system found something that stopped them cold. The brains of children raised in high volatility homes lit up in the exact same patterns as the brains of soldiers in combat zones. Not metaphorically, literally the same neural signature, the same threat detection circuitry. Permanently, quietly armed, your nervous system learned. Relaxation is dangerous. Safety is earned. And the way you earn it is by reading the room before anyone else has to. From the outside, it looks like emotional maturity. From the inside, it feels like surviving. And here's where it gets fascinating. Because this is the part that follows you out of the house and into every room you ever enter after it. You walk into a party, and within 4 minutes you know who's nursing a secret resentment, which 2 colleagues can't be in the same conversation, which topic will end the evening if someone brings it up. You feel the shift before the shift arrives. You see the jaw tighten a half second before anyone else registers the change. People call it a gift. They call you emotionally intelligent, perceptive, unnatural with people. What they don't see is that you are never just in a room. You are running the room, subconsciously, constantly, at a cost that never appears on any invoice anyone hands you. Fast forward. You're in your 30s maybe. You're in a meeting and you've been working 60-hour weeks, and your manager sends a slightly terse email, 2 sentences, no greeting, a period where an exclamation mark used to be. And something happens in your chest that has nothing to do with the email. Your heart rate spikes. A cold wash moves through your arms. Your brain stops processing the content of the message and starts generating scripts, ways to apologize, ways to smooth it over, ways to make the displeasure stop, before you've even established whether you did anything wrong. Because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a terse email in 2024 and a heavy sigh at the dinner table in 1997. It never learned the difference. It just kept the alarm running. So you reply immediately, warmly, probably too warmly. You volunteer for the extra project. You work the weekend. You make yourself useful before anyone can decide you're not. And you go home depleted in a way that has no clean explanation, because nothing dramatic happened. You weren't yelled at. Nobody was cruel. A door just closed slightly too loud, and your body treated it like a starting gun. This is what the domino looks like in adult life. The hypervigilance produces the fawning. The fawning produces the overextension. The overextension produces the exhaustion. The exhaustion gets buried because showing exhaustion means taking up space. And taking up space means risking the very thing you've spent your whole life preventing. So you smile. You say you're fine. You ask what they need. And the anger, the very natural, very reasonable anger of a person who gives and gives and never receives, that anger doesn't disappear. It has nowhere to go, so it goes inward, into the body. Joints that ache without explanation, an immune system that begins slowly to turn on itself. The fury of a decade of unspoken words metabolized into physical disease, sitting in the muscles and the gut like sediment at the bottom of a river that was never allowed to move. The person everyone calls endlessly patient, endlessly generous, endlessly calm, that person is not calm. Their amygdala is on fire. They are the swan you see gliding across the surface of the lake, and underneath, in the dark water, their legs are moving in a constant, exhausting, invisible panic. Here is the contradiction that lives at the center of all of this. The person who can walk into a warring meeting between two executives and de-escalate the room with surgical precision, that same person goes completely blank when their own partner dismisses them. Throat closed, words gone, all that mastery, all that emotional architecture, and they cannot form a single sentence in their own defense. They know every language of conflict resolution. They are mute when the conflict is about them. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. It's that their nervous system learned, in a house they no longer live in, that their own pain was not worth the noise it might create. It's not that they don't have needs. It's that they were taught, long before they could argue with the lesson, that having needs was the most dangerous thing a person could do. The role they were handed, the mediator, the fixer, the one who holds it all together, they didn't choose it. They were drafted into it the first time they told a joke at the dinner table and watched the tension break. That worked. And the brain, especially a child's brain, remembers what works. So they did it again and again, until it wasn't a strategy anymore, until it was just who they were. Think about the person in your life who does this, who is always there and never asks for anything, who you have never, not once, actually seen fall apart. What were they answering? What question were they trained long before they had the language to even ask it, to spend their whole life solving? Because the tragedy isn't the role they played. The tragedy is that they were so good at it, for so long, that everyone, including them, forgot it was a role at all. They were not born serene. They were born sensitive, in a home that needed managing, and they rose to meet it the only way a child knows how. The wound became a skill. The skill became a mask. And somewhere underneath the mask, in a room they stopped visiting years ago, is the version of them that never got to be loud or wrong or needy, or just a kid who came home from school and put their backpack down and didn't have to listen for anything. That version is still there. Waiting, the way a person waits who has learned not to ask for too long. If this stayed with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Some people have been waiting a long time for someone to finally say it out loud.